Does Israel view the change in leadership in Syria? We go live now to Avi Mayer, former editor of the Jerusalem Post. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Jen.
It's long been said that Israel looks to Syria and the Assad regime, the past Assad regime, as the devil they knew, in effect, and that while they certainly didn't love him, they at least knew him and knew his father going back decades so they could deal with the threat across the border. Now they have something new. They have HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. U.S. still says tied to ISIS, still considered a terrorist organization, has a past with al-Qaeda. Does Israel prefer the past as opposed to the present?
Well, Jim, certainly no one should prefer the Assad regime, which was cruel and oppressive towards its own people and served as a central pillar in the Iranian axis in the region, causing all sorts of mayhem, death, and destruction across the Middle East. So I don't think anyone in Israel is bemoaning the fall of the Assad regime, nor frankly should anyone in the region, or certainly in Syria itself. That doesn't say that we are not at the entry of some kind of period of possible instability and chaos. We acknowledge that we probably are. And that, as you said, there are certain actors who are prominent in the rebel groups that have been rather hostile to Israel, have an ideology that is not hospitable to the presence of a Jewish state in the region. That is a dynamic that Israel will now have to navigate. But I think it is unqualifiably a good thing that the Assad regime is no longer here. I don't think anyone in Israel would disagree with that.
Let's talk about Iran's influence, and not just with the loss of Assad, who was, central to Israel's power projection in the area, central to, for instance, getting weapons to Hezbollah. But you also have the enormous setbacks to Hezbollah because of Israeli military action in recent weeks. How significant a blow, not just the fall of Assad, but the weakening of Hezbollah to Iran's influence in the region, but also its threat to Israel?
It's extremely profound. I think it's notable that not only Benjamin Netanyahu, but also Donald Trump and a senior official in the Biden administration all seem to be of the same mind that it was, in fact, Israel's military successes against Hezbollah and Hamas and its direct military action against Iran that brought about this sort of weakening of the Iranian influence in the region, that brought about this sort of emboldened rebel push over the past few weeks and the eventual fall of the Assad regime. So this is a devastating blow, in fact, to Iran and its influence in the region. It still, of course, does have the Houthis. It has its own significant military capabilities. But the fact that Hezbollah, Hamas, and now Syria itself have fallen in terms of its spheres of influence, I think opens a significant opportunity to further reduce its malign influence in the region and bring about, a better future for the entire region and hopefully the world as well.
Does this change Israel's relationship with Russia, specifically Netanyahu's relationship with Russia? Because it had long been said that Israel cannot push too hard against Russia, for instance, against the invasion of Ukraine, because it needed access to carry out strikes inside Syria against threats to Israel. With the Assad regime gone and presumably more freedom for Israel to strike, does it change the calculus as relates to Russia?
I think we're likely to see a significant realignment across the Middle East. Russia, of course, did utilize Syria for many, many years as a forward base. It had air bases, ports, naval ports in Syria that have now essentially been cut off and their personnel have been evacuated. I think Russia will be taking a second look at the region, trying to figure out who its actual friends and allies ought to be. For many years, of course, we know that Iran and Syria were part of its sphere of influence. Now that Syria is no longer on the table and Iran seems to be somewhat constrained, I think we're likely to see a reevaluation of whether or not Iran and Russia should be opening a new chapter in their relationship. I don't know if that means that we're going to start seeing Israel more openly criticizing Russia, but I think we are likely to see a new stage in that relationship and perhaps the opening of some kind of opportunity for Israel to operate more openly against those malign influences, perhaps with Russia's tacit approval.
So much has changed in such a short time. Avi Mayer, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well,